And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Was that a rough one?
That was like the weakest drum roll ever.
It was the weakest one for you. Obviously, we want to talk about the Oscars. We want to talk about the slap, and we want to talk about the Smiths and Chris Rock and everything else that happened with it. We do have breaking news, and we have a video that we wanted to share with you. There is a multiple car pileup on Route 81 in Lavelle, Pennsylvania.
Where is Lavelle?
Lavelle should be near Minersville.
Okay.
I don't know if it's before or after Minersville, but it's close to
over that area. Okay.
Yes. So just below kind of the Shamokin Pottsville, you can keep going on down all the way down to Minersville. This is on Route 81. We'll play the video. We're not going to play the audio for several reasons, but you are going to be able to see, I believe we're going to be able to see some of the video from the pileup here. This is as it was starting off. So further to the right, and you're going to see they're going to pan down. There was already a pileup started. And there's a gentleman here that you and I have only seen this video once.
Yes.
There's a gentleman here that is unbelievably lucky. Very, very fortunate. So again, this is a multiple car pileup. Breaking news that's coming out here in about the last hour or so. Videos now being released from different people that were on site seeing it. But this gentleman here gets away with
standing by the car. Yeah,
this is absolutely incredible footage, and thankfully, he seems to be okay. Absolutely bizarre. There was a tanker involved. It appears to be also a propane truck involved as well. So there are multiple fires on the scene that they are trying to take care of right now. Again, this is coming from a Mike Moy on Hobart News. And at NorthcentralPa.com, you can find it as well. This is the footage from the pileup here in the past hour, just outside of Minersville, Pennsylvania on Route 81. Obviously, the highway is closed down right now. Multiple other roads nearby are closed as well. The conditions, from what I've read so far on Twitter and from Facebook, the conditions shifted. So apparently it went from just being like a flurry of snow to started sticking on the road.
Well, that's, from all of us who have Pennsylvania driving experience, like an inch, a half inch of snow is on the roads is worse than 6 inches. It's just, it creates that, obviously ice is the worst, but when you just get enough to kind of pack on the roads and make things slippery. And you can imagine if you're just kind of cruising along and everything's okay, and then all of a sudden it's not okay.
It shifts.
And depending on where the road, if you change elevations, I know sometimes going over Route 80, if you're heading east, like you start out and everything's okay, and then all of a sudden you get up in the mountains,
right,
and things are bad. So this stuff does just pop up on you sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that you can see in the video, and someone who was there at the scene said this, essentially one of the major causes not only was the road, but the visibility.
Yes.
They said the visibility shifted very, very quickly, and it became kind of squalls essentially, and it became very, very difficult. We don't want to watch this music video though. We'll play it back one more time. Again, this is on Route 81 outside of Minersville, Lavelle, Pennsylvania. Multiple car pileup. The video is from a Mike Moy at Hobart News. If you want to actually hear the scan reports, you can go to Hobart News to see it. You can also find everything at NorthcentralPa.com as well, or on our Facebook page at NorthcentralPA. But you can see, like, the visibility is horrific. I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the roads are an issue, but the visibility, I mean, you can barely see past these cars that are just in front of the video.
I'm just watching this, and obviously I have no experience with road crew cleanup. How do you get the trucks in? How do you get anything in there to clean it up?
You just one by one, you just have to start towing it back, towing it out. It is a mess.
It is a mess.
This is part of the reason why it's so many times on the turnpike. All it takes is one car on the turnpike to just throw everything.
Yeah.
Because you just can't get stuff removed or out of the way. I still cannot get over the gentleman who got out of his car and just barely.
I mean, the first time we're watching it, we're like, dude, you got to move. You got to move. You got to move.
And we didn't even know what was going to happen.
No. And he's just lucky the way the car got hit that it boomeranged around him. If you watch it, the second time I really noticed.
Yeah.
He didn't get out of the way.
No.
If the car would have came flush, it would have hit him. But the car got spun, and it spun right around him. So, it is good because you were talking about before we even saw that part. You said they always tell people stay in their cars. You're like, watching this, you're like, if people stay in their cars, they're in danger.
It's such a tricky situation
until the pileup gets far enough.
They tell you to stay in your car, and I fully understand that. I'm not implying that I know what to do at all. I don't even know if there is a right answer. I just know that more times than not when I watch these, I just don't know if I would stay in the car. Like I see these people standing off the side of the road, and I think a lot of them made the right choice. So it's a catch-22. I get why they tell you to stay in the car. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I totally, in that moment, I understand why people just do what their gut tells them to do. Because I think my gut would have been to get out. But
once it becomes a parking lot, you're safer because the conditions in your car are safer.
Absolutely.
Than making a break for it through a blizzard.
Sure.
But yes, you're right. I mean, there are people. It was a mess. It's
really, really brutal.
We don't have any reports of injuries or casualties.
Nothing
like
yet.
That.
There are reports of entrapments that I'm sure, hopefully, they're being taken care of. But there's not a lot of factual things. Again, you can go to Hobart News on Facebook, or you can stay with us here at NorthcentralPA.com, or you can go to our Facebook page, North Central PA, to see it as well. Video from Mike Moy. I hate the word incredible always has a positive connotation to it, so I hate using that word. But it is, the first time you and I were watching it, it was kind of, and the sound is just eerie. It's just hard because it's hard to listen to. It's honestly, it's one of those things, it's more hard to listen to than it is to
I would agree with that.
So again, you can find those videos, Hobart News at NorthcentralPA.com, if you're looking for more information on it. So yeah, the roads are bad. I do know that in southern Lycoming, they just released a warning for squalls as well. So there is not, no reported accident, no pileup or anything like that. I'm not trying to compare it, but there are reports right now that squalls being in southern Lycoming County. So try to avoid some of the highways if possible right now. It looks like the conditions have just turned and made it more difficult to drive on the roads.
Today's a high of 27. Tomorrow it's supposed to get back to 40.
Okay.
And then a high of 47, but a low of 23, and we're supposed to get snow again Wednesday. And then back to 66. And then so it was, I was just saying to my kids yesterday, like, I think this is the last, winter blast that we're going to get, but nobody saw this coming.
No, not that. So again, Route 81, outside of Minersville, Lavelle, Pennsylvania, multiple car pileup. We'll keep you posted. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPA.com. Be sure to go to the Facebook page. I'm sure there will be more reports as actual numbers come in as far as total cars and just taking care of the situation.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Is not great. With that aside, the number one trending topic, the thing that we got the most, I don't know about you, this is what I got the most texts about. I had a dozen or so texts from people saying, if you don't talk about the Will Smith thing today, there's something wrong with
They're canceling we're being canceled.
It's very, very possible. So again, for those of you who
I was watching. Were you watching?
I had it on when it happened. So for those of you who don't know the situation, Chris Rock hosted last night.
No, he did not host.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, he was just presenting the award beforehand.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So he's presenting the award beforehand. As he's making a joke, one of the jokes was about Jada Pinkett. It was about her hair. For anyone who's seen G.I. Jane, Jada Pinkett has a shaved head right now because of alopecia.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm
She has a condition, and she has had to kind of shave her head.
Yes. So she has a shaved head. Chris Rock made a G.I. Jane joke, which I'm still not clear if he knew about the alopecia yet or not. I was trying to find out beforehand. I'm not 100% sure where Chris Rock was as far as the information and what he had going into it. Will Smith appeared to laugh at the beginning of the joke. The camera cuts away. It then shows Jada. It goes back to Jada Pinkett. She is not laughing at the joke. It cuts back to Chris Rock. Chris Rock kind of makes a, oh boy. And Will Smith is walking up the stage towards Chris Rock, gets right in front of him, winds up, hits him with the right hand slap. Chris Rock kind of dodges it, but kind of doesn't. Like, it landed, but it wasn't. Chris Rock kind of did the old dipperoo. Is that fair to say? Out of the way?
I guess. I don't know.
I felt that way. Will Smith turns around. Now, on the American broadcast, you couldn't hear anything. They cut the audio.
Right.
However, thanks to social media, I know for a fact the Asian feed,
Australian
feed, and then I think there was one other feed, still had the audio. Will Smith essentially tells Chris Rock with some profanity to keep his wife out of his mouth.
Keep my wife's name out of your bleeping mouth.
Yes.
And he said it twice.
Says it twice and loud and not like.
Oh, he
like
screamed
this
it from his
the
seat.
only thing you can really hear in the entire room is Will Smith saying this.
Right.
Chris Rock tries to. He didn't really laugh it off, but he kind of tries to make light of it before moving on to the actual award itself. So that is the basis.
If you haven't watched the video, you need to.
Yes.
He was stunned, obviously.
Yes. Did you think
then he
it was...
kind of gathered himself and he said, "This is the greatest night of television ever."
Yes. He
and
tried
then
to save it to his credit.
Yes.
Oh, did you think it was fake at first?
Yes.
Okay. And
until
then when he started
until he started yelling with the profanity.
Okay.
Then I thought, this ain't a joke.
This isn't a joke anymore. Until he swore, I thought it was a joke. And then after he swore the second time, it dawned on me like, this is very, very
This is real.
I'm shocked that there are people still arguing they thought it was fake. I think at this point,
well, there's a conspiracy theory about everything. The point that I've made to people already today, and I saw this online, if it was fake, because people are like the Academy Awards and people aren't watching and they needed publicity, and this will make, because right now, who's your host for next year's Academy Awards? Chris Rock.
Sure.
And there you go, and the ratings are back up. The problem is, Will Smith is taking a bullet for this. Like, he is not. There are people that are like, he defended his woman, and then there are people that are like, you can't just assault people.
Where did you fall?
The second.
Okay.
And
70-30, 80-20?
Well, I mean, there are, well, so anyway, just to finish. So there's no way that that Will Smith and Chris Rock, for that matter, would take the hits to their public image to boost the Academy Award rating.
Oh, no.
So that's why there's no way.
This was real.
This was real.
Just anybody who thinks it wasn't, this was real.
Like, it was, this is what I always tell my kids. The joke was in poor taste. There's no doubt about it. Now, if Chris Rock knew, then or if he knew or didn't know, it depends on the level of poor taste. But he was not trying to be hurtful. He was trying to be funny.
Right.
But all these people get made fun of.
But that's the part of this that isn't, no one knows right now if Chris Rock knew or not.
Well, there's debates that A, Chris Rock didn't write the joke.
Okay.
And B, that he said it during rehearsal
and
before the show, and there was no reaction. There was no negative reaction.
Okay.
So these are part of the things that are going to come out that really hurt Will Smith's stance.
So can you make a joke in poor taste if you didn't know?
Well, correct. Right. If I get what you're saying, it's not really. If Chris Rock's like, I didn't know, I thought she just shaved her head because she thought it was cool.
Sure.
Then you're right.
Can I throw this out there too? Because I like.
Yeah, you throw whatever. You're running the ship, man. You throw whatever you want.
I want to throw this out here too as well. Like, G.I. Jane is not a negative reference.
That's what a lot of people have said.
So I understand if she's upset about her hair. I understand that maybe Chris Rock or maybe his crew should have done more research into why her head. Like, I get all of that. But, like, it's not like he made a joke about, like, her being ugly or her, like, G.I. Jane, for most people, is a very positive, like,
There's a lot of people that have said that.
I don't really understand that aspect of it either.
Well, it's not, other than the fact that she's very sensitive about her hair loss. It would be like taking a jab at someone's weight if someone was sensitive about their weight. So I understand from the Smith camp why this might be a topic that we don't joke about. Because you even know, in your family and in your relationship, there are things you joke about and things you don't.
Totally.
So this may not be a joking matter in the Smith house, but you're right. Like, Chris Rock's level of guilt may be almost zero if he had no idea.
He might still be wondering how this.
Well, he knows now, I'm sure.
But I'm just saying in general, like, he might have woke up this morning and still his head might have been spinning, not because of the slap, but just trying to understand, like, how did this go so wrong? Like, where did
you watch it now? I know Leo wasn't there. Did
Okay.
you see the joke earlier when they were talking about saving the planet for Leo
Yes.
DiCaprio's girlfriends?
Yes.
Like that seems a little harsh.
But that's the
Did
whole
you see the
point
one?
of it. But that's the whole point of this, because there's like a SeaWorld aspect to this that I want to talk. Can I bring it up now?
SeaWorld?
I had said to you, if you're Jada Pinkett or anybody else, and you're going to sit at the front row of the Oscars,
Oh, you might get splashed.
and whether
I
it's Ricky
understand.
Gervais or whether it's Chris Rock, whoever I thought Amy Schumer was great last
She was
night.
great.
I thought she was incredible.
She was great.
You know these people are coming up on stage, and you know that you are the target. I compared it to, it's like sitting at SeaWorld, sitting in the splash zone, and then being upset when you get wet.
Yeah,
like
that's
it
good.
doesn't.
I like that.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, the thing too that's really, if you watched, and I watched the vast majority of the show.
Mhm.
There was a bit earlier, and again, Regina, what's her last name? The other Regina Hall. I was gonna say Hill. Regina Hall. One of the three hosts. It was Amy Schumer. It was Wanda Sykes, and I think Regina Hall.
Should be Regina Hall.
So Regina Hall made a joke early in the show that she was single.
Yes.
So then there was a bit where she said, because everyone here had to be COVID tested and vaccinated or whatever, she said, but some of the tests came back and we need to retest some of the people. So she started calling the single men up on stage. She had Bradley Cooper.
Sure.
She had, who's the guy that does the Medea movies?
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry. Timothy Chalamet. There were four up on stage.
Sure.
So she's calling all these single guys. And she looks and she says, and Will Smith, you're on the list, but you're not single, but your wife says it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've obviously had it's very public about the openness of their marriage. The Smiths laughed at that joke.
Sure.
So it's not like, again, they were in the splash zone. At that point, they got it. They laughed along.
Sure.
So that adds to where Chris Rock's like, you laughed at that joke, and my joke brought on physical assault.
I would agree with that. Heather brings up a good point. She says they don't pick their seat at the Oscars, though. They're assigned based on why they're there,
which makes sense.
Which is a fair point. I mean, it's a fair point.
But it's still. Did you hear the Aaron Sorkin joke?
Yeah.
How do you make a movie about Lucille Ball and there's nothing funny about it?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of insulting. Now, he was obviously doing a drama.
Sure.
But, lots of people get
I think there's still an aspect.
roasted.
I agree that they don't get to pick their seats, but you have to know it's coming, don't you?
And
to show up is essentially like, you know there is a chance that someone is going to possibly say something. They're going to come at you.
The other thing I've always said too, these are the things I've said to my kids, and I agree with that. Number one, when someone says something, lots of people try to be funny and it doesn't work.
Mm.
Even funny people, sometimes, it falls flat. But you have to look at the intent. Were they trying to hurt your feelings, or were they trying to be funny and missed?
Okay.
That's number one.
Okay.
And I forgot what number two was.
That's about
number two would have been the intent of the joke. And go ahead, you say something while I'm thinking about it.
No, you're fine. So real quick, Joe brought up some stuff. We're going to talk about Will Smith in a second, Joe, because Joe comes on for North Central Cinema with us. Sykes also insulted the entire state of Texas, which actually was not okay with me. I turned it off at that point. Sounds like Joe was out on the comedic. Were you out on just all the comedic elements last night, Joe, or did you feel it was over the top?
There's some about Florida too.
Yeah.
Oh, gay night in Florida.
Yes. Yeah, there were a couple of them that were. It was much more of a comedic show than what I had expected. I didn't expect there to be as much, because usually opening monologue, you kind of get it out. And then people try to be funny, but they're not really attacking the audience per se, as the show goes on.
Yeah.
This felt like it was kind of more consistent. It felt like we had more of it throughout the night.
Well, but again, have you seen Ricky Gervais?
No, yeah, I've seen all of it. I love it.
It's not.
Can we? So real quick, because I have some bullet points down here. Let's talk about Will Smith, because Joe brought up a good point too. Don't forget to mention that Smith went on to win Best Actor, his first Oscar. In his acceptance speech, he was quite teary-eyed and apologetic.
Well, hold on.
Can you go ahead?
He didn't apologize to Chris Rock.
Well, he didn't apologize to Chris Rock, but there was a sentiment of he was sorry that it had happened. Did you not feel that way? I felt like he was sorry that it had happened. But again, this is all happening.
Yes.
This is all happening in real time.
It's all happening in real time.
Right.
Yes. Yes, I think he's obviously sorry that it happened, but there's a difference between I'm sorry that it happened and I apologized and I was out of line. And he never said that.
But in the moment, he might not have felt that. He might still not feel that way.
Well, then it's not an apology. You can't apologize and say I wasn't wrong.
Well, no, but he can apologize and say, I'm sorry, it happened.
But that's not really an apology.
You don't think so?
No.
It's not an apology to Chris Rock. It's
an apology
to
is like taking ownership for something that you did that was wrong.
Okay.
And
you don't feel like he did that?
No.
Interesting. Another subtle side note to this. Did you see what? There's a Denzel Washington story going around. Did you see this at all?
What, did he talk to him?
Apparently, Denzel went up to Will Smith during commercial break.
So did what's his name? Tyler Perry.
Okay. Apparently, Denzel Washington said to him that, and again, I'll try to verify this when you're talking. Apparently, he said to him, "The devil comes after us at our highest moments."
He said
something along those effects.
And Will Smith repeated it during his acceptance speech.
And that is as if I didn't already think Denzel Washington was a fascinating enough person. In the moment to come up and drop that one-liner in his ear is just, I don't even know how to describe it.
No, I think there's,
I mean, if you and I were writing a movie and we were trying to figure out what the person would say, what is the line that the person could say to Will Smith in that moment? I don't know if you could do better than what Denzel Washington did at that time.
No, I agree. And you can
incredible.
just tell it's fatherly, even though Will Smith's 57 years old or whatever. No, Chris Rock's 57.
I mean, this is because my friends and I were texting about this morning. To Denzel, he knows that there's a chance Will Smith is about to win this award.
Everybody.
Right. And that moment means almost as much to Denzel. Knowing what Denzel, him winning his award and him going through that and being a black actor and everything, just the whole, what it all encompasses. Denzel knows what that night means to movies, to his culture, to Black America. Like, he knows, listen, this is important. And I don't want to say salvage it, but for him to just have the words to go up and say that to Will Smith. Again, I find Denzel Washington incredible. He is just an incredible human.
He's done all right for himself.
It's unreal.
I think there's so many angles to go about this. This is why I don't think this speech was great. I think, obviously, it was a tough emotional night for him.
Sure.
And it is hard. It came across incredibly hollow to me that he's talking about he has this calling to be this vessel of peace after he just slapped a guy. He physically assaulted a guy in front of 1 billion people around the world because he couldn't think of a better way to handle it. You made a joke about my wife's hair, and so I am going to walk up on stage in front of everyone. I mean, he could have, the story this morning, Chris Rock is declining to press charges. He could be charged with this, and he would be guilty as hell of a physical assault of someone 45 minutes before he says, I feel this calling to be a vessel of peace. That doesn't really jive.
Sure. If you're Will Smith this morning, what's the plan?
Okay, I've thought about this.
I knew you did.
So here we go.
You didn't even have to tell me.
No, I was ready. I practiced. So here we go. So this is Will Smith. I am playing Will Smith on Jimmy Kimmel.
Which he declined, by the way.
Tonight already?
Jimmy Kimmel offered, and Will Smith has already declined.
He will come.
Maybe he will come.
Maybe
eventually. He'll reevaluate.
Now it's
as
not.
Of now, he has declined to come on.
He will. Listen, I'm sorry for what happened. I'm sorry to Chris Rock. Obviously, I was a bundle of emotions knowing that I had a chance to be, I think he's the 5th black man to ever win Best Picture, and people were telling me I was the favorite. And Chris Rock, even 30 seconds before, made a joke that I was the favorite because he said that what's his name was rooting for me to win because he was up against his wife. And So, it was, to say that my stress level was through the roof is an understatement. It was a very sensitive topic with my wife. And I felt like it was across the line. And in my family, with the stuff of my marriage that has been public, with the stuff of my child, of Jaden's gender identity, which has been public. There's been lots of stuff written about us, said about us. And when you're in the public eye, I know it's coming, but you feel very defenseless. And maybe part of my reaction was, this is one time where the guy taking a cheap shot at my family was right there and I could do something about it. And maybe that's why I reacted the way I did. Obviously, I was wrong. I apologize to Chris, and I wish I hadn't done it. But these are all the things that may have culminated.
You really
to
thought about
that's
that.
what Chris Rock would, or that's what Will Smith should say.
I think the PR challenge here, like the overall thing, is how do you do this? And I kept using this pre-show. I kept saying to you, there's a lot of aspects here, whether it's Jada Pinkett or the Smiths in general, where they want their cake and eat it too. And so, like Jada Pinkett starts this show. I think it's Red Table Talk, I think is the actual name of the show.
I think you're right.
And so, like, we're going to open up and we have all these different generations and we talk about these really hot button issues and we use our family as an example. And like, so it's this, we're going to open up to you and you're going to get to be with the Smiths and you get to be, but then like Chris Rock makes a G.I. Jane joke and it's too personal or it's too over the top. And so from a PR standpoint, balancing that idea of like, how do you make it seem too personal or too much when their whole model for the last 3 years on Facebook and social media and all that stuff is like, come be a part of our lives. And not only come be a part of our lives, we're going to really open up. Like, we're going to talk about gender identities and we're going to talk about like how moms are treated. We're going to talk about monogamous versus non-monogamous relationships. And so opening up like that for 3 straight years. And now the G.I. Jane joke is over, you know what it's too personal.
No, you can't be incredibly open and then be upset when people talk about you. Because you're asking, you're like, we're spilling everything, and now not everything, but now we don't want you talking about us when we're not there.
But they were there. I get that. See, this is now again hindsight, and he didn't have a writer with him. He didn't have. If Will Smith would have taken the stage when he won, and again, you also have to understand this: he didn't know he was going to win at the time. Sure,
we thought he was going to win.
Sure,
we didn't know. So if he takes the stage and he says, I want to thank my wife. Listen, she's the sexiest. G.I. Jane ain't got nothing on you. Sure. Then, and he even could have followed up with not that, Demi Moore's hot, like for a white chick. He could have totally played it up.
Sure.
And professed his love and her sexiness and all that stuff. He just could have handled it.
It's hard to do that.
He could have handled it with words. You know what I thought, not to spin it off, you know what I thought was the best part of the show? When Amy Schumer came out and said, there's a different vibe in the room now. Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Because that was obviously someone, either she came up with that off the top of her head or someone wrote that just like this. Because that wasn't scheduled.
Her Will Smith joke, in my opinion, might have been the best joke of the night about how women being nominated and all this stuff. So thank goodness Will Smith was nominated, or thank goodness the Williams sisters movie was about their dad.
Oh, yes.
And I thought that was the best joke of the night.
Really?
Really good.
What did you think about how the Williams sisters were dressed?
This is the funny part about it. I honestly don't know if I noticed.
Yes, you did.
No, honestly.
Yes, you did.
No, because you said that and I had to think for a second. Like,
it was right at the beginning.
I understand that. But like, if you've seen any of the commercials or them play tennis or anything like that, like, I don't know. They've always just wear whatever they want to wear. Like, I don't know. So I honest to God didn't think any differently about what they were wearing. Not compared to what other people were wearing.
But they were first.
I get that.
And like there's not a bra in the arena. Like, I get that.
Okay.
But like I thought they looked awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there are lots of either older people or just really conservative people who thought it was over the top.
But I think that happens every year.
Yes.
Remember the J-Lo slit dress? Do you
But-
remember the
but-
first time she
yes,
ever wore that?
But
Like,
J-Lo's an actress. Like J-Lo's done. J-Lo played a stripper. Like they're athletes, and
maybe.
these are. I thought it was. Not aggressive is not the word I'm looking for. I thought it was risky on their part, but I thought it came off great.
Yeah,
I thought they looked great.
I had zero issue with it.
No,
I
well,
didn't know
because
that was.
they're.
I mean, if that's a thing on like social media, or like I didn't know that was. That was just something
there's
you
one
noticed.
thing on social
Okay.
media right now.
Yeah.
Well, there's two. There's a truck accident.
That's true.
And there is Will Smith.
I also said I said this to you. We don't have to dive too much into it, but I think Chris Rock he's gonna get some flack, and people are gonna talk about it certainly. And I think Will Smith also is gonna get some flack, and they're gonna talk about it. I think I used like the Helen of Troy. I think Jada Pinkett is a little Helen of Troy here, where there's going to be this issue and there's going to be this huge debate, and then like she's just kind of off to the side of it. And I have said to you before, I said something pre-show that's a personal opinion. I don't love Jada Pinkett. I don't think she's like should go to hell, but I also am very, very willing to say that like I don't always think Jada Pinkett has other people's best interests in mind.
Can you give us a list of the people who you do think should go to hell?
It's a short one.
Then it shouldn't be hard. Let's go. Yeah. Let's rattle off some names.
But there is a little Helen of Troy here where like
see, I don't know anything about it. Who is Helen? I mean, I've heard of Helen of Troy.
It's a Brad Pitt movie. You'll see it. You'll eventually see it.
Oh, Troy.
Yes, Helen of Troy.
I've heard of Helen of Troy.
There you go.
But I don't know what she did. What did she do?
So there's a little Jada Pinkett stuff here that's kind of being like swept under the rug. And I get it. Like she has a condition. You shouldn't make fun of the condition, especially like, but again, we don't know if Chris Rock knew or not. And there's also that idea of like, she's such like have you ever watched any of the Red Table Talk stuff?
No.
It is very, what they're doing is very unique. Like compared to a lot of reality TV, this feels more real. They're talking about real stuff. They're bringing people on to talk about real topics. And while it is a little like gossipy, I find it more like real gossip. Did that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of this reality TV stuff,
it's a little
yes.
Fake.
But their gossip is real gossip. Like it's the things they're probably actually talking about behind closed doors and everything else. So I don't know. I like I said before, I feel as if she's a little bit of I want my cake and eat it too. And so like you made a good point. She didn't tell 99% sure she didn't tell Will Smith to go up there and smack Chris Rock. And I totally understand that.
And where they were sitting, he was closest. Like he didn't climb over her to get.
That was the other thing I wanted to talk to you too. Will this be the last time that the Oscars don't have like a true step up?
A security guard?
That too. But did you notice the way the stage was done? It wasn't like your prototypical. The audience usually feels more walled off from the stage. Did you feel that at all or no?
I thought it was different.
Okay.
Didn't they have like? Didn't it used to be all like movie theater seating, and tonight there were tables like the Golden Globes do?
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is I wonder, had the seating been lower and kind of blocked from the stage, does Will Smith feel as willing? Does he feel as motivated?
Nice pun.
Thank you. To then go up to Chris Rock the way he did. Because the way it looks when it's being filmed, it almost looks like he's level with Chris Rock. Now, I know he wasn't, but it almost felt that way. Like they were higher up than they normally are compared to the stage. Did you feel that? Or no,
I do. I do get what you're saying.
And that's not an excuse for him. I'm just saying, like, the psychology of like I throw stuff to you all the time because like there's a desk, there's a couch, there's a desk, like everything else. If none of this was here, I probably wouldn't throw anything to you. Like I'd probably just walk.
Right.
So the human psychology and the way our brains work of what we're willing to go and do, I do wonder if the stage being more level than normal had something to do with that. Like Will felt more a part of what was happening.
One of the other, and I agree with that. One of the other things that I'd read that people talked about are women. It's the whole like there's the machismo guy who's like he's defending his woman and there's the women who are like I want a man that'll stand up for me, and then there's the other women who are like I can stand up for myself. Like he that Will made Jada look weak in the moment.
Oh, I
That
hadn't thought of those
that she
perspectives.
couldn't, that the joke was so devastating
she
to
couldn't
her
take it.
that he had to go punch the guy who told it, that she couldn't take it, or that she
Interesting.
couldn't have handled it on her own. So there is that. And again, there's no right and wrong. It depends which side you're on.
Okay.
Because as you said, if you would have done that, your girlfriend would have killed you.
Yes.
If you would have walked up on stage.
Yeah.
But there's other girlfriends who would have been pushing you that said, he just made fun of me, go punch him in the mouth. So it depends how you're wired.
Even though I don't love Jada Pinkett, I doubt that she would.
I doubt it too.
I will give her that. Joe said, "Let's not reduce Helen of Troy," which is pretty great. Real quick, I believe there's pre-gaming done before these things. That could explain why things went down how they did.
Well, that's part of the joke, and I don't know if we discussed this. Part of the lore now, which I don't know what we're going to find out. There's rumor that this joke was done in rehearsal.
Yes.
And everyone knew the joke was coming.
Mm-hmm.
There's also rumor that Chris Rock did not write the joke, that the writers wrote it for him. So that also kind of comes out of it. Okay. If Will, now here's part of my other spin zone for Will Smith. If you knew the joke was coming and this happened, after it already looks like he laughs, and then he does it, he does not have a leg to stand on with this, I was defending my woman. Because if he really wanted to defend her, he would have gone up to her beforehand and said, nope, that joke has to come out. And they would have taken it out. They have other jokes. Sure. So if he knew it was coming. So even if he did know, he has to say, when Chris was rehearsing, I wasn't in the room.
Sure.
So he has to, even if he knew it was coming. But this is going to be something that's hard to play out, that they knew this joke was coming.
Sure.
And I would also suspect, maybe this is just ignorance of the room, that the jokes about people, the people probably had to know. Maybe they don't. I don't know.
The way from years past, the reactions people give, I feel they don't know.
You might be right, because some of the reactions are.
I'm guessing, but that's how I feel.
Okay, you may be right with that.
That's an interesting point. No, the whole thing was, the part that I can't get past is Will Smith laughing at the beginning of the joke.
Yes.
That's the part that I'm still, because unless he's just on a machine, his brain is just functioning of there's a comedian, he is making a joke, I am on TV, smile and laugh. Right? Because that's
possible.
The media machine that I bet a lot of people are on. So if he's not on that machine, he's laughing at the joke, and then to 5 seconds later, maybe
it's
less,
quick.
Within less than 5 seconds, I think is very fair to say, he goes from laughing at the joke to now I am because even though he's walking up, he's already predetermined what he's doing. He knows what's going to happen once he's there.
Right.
So in less than 5 seconds, he went from laughing about the joke to now I need to go up there and slap Chris Rock. That 5-second switch is the part that I just, from a human psychology standpoint, I am fascinated by it.
Is there any, so then here's the next question. If Chris Rock didn't write the joke, well, okay, so both parts of the things that we just brought up. These are rumors that Chris Rock didn't write the joke and that it was rehearsed.
Okay.
Does the Academy want the audience to know that they rehearse all these, that all these jokes are rehearsed? And because it comes across better if it seems spontaneous, but I remember hearing this, talking about the NFL game day show when Fox got, and Rupert Murdoch was talking about it. I think one of Rupert Murdoch's lines was something along the line of, the best ad lib is still rehearsed 5 times.
Sure.
That all these jokes, they do the whole show.
Do you know who gets to see them?
Who?
No, I'm asking.
Oh, I don't.
Okay. So we don't know who actually gets to see the rehearsal.
But, so those are things that these are facts. Whether Chris Rock wrote the joke or not is a fact. It's not an opinion. Whether the joke was done during rehearsal is a fact. It's not an opinion. But the question is, do they want this released? Because do they think it tarnishes the live appearance, or the off the cuff appearance of the jokes if people know that they were rehearsed over and over?
Maybe. It's a very fair point. I think to focus on the rehearsal isn't fair to Chris Rock, because Chris Rock either knew she had alopecia or he didn't. And if he didn't know, then this is a G.I. Jane joke. And let's be honest, like, that's not worth getting smacked in the face.
Agree.
It's not. Now, if he knew, now it's listen. I still don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be, but at least I get it. Like, at least I can understand. I can understand why Will Smith and Jada Pinkett would be upset. I totally get that. But if he doesn't know and it's a G.I. Jane joke, it's a rough look. It is.
Well, and I don't disagree with that. And that's why I said it was a joke on some level in poor taste. Mm-hmm. But I think she has also tweeted that she has this, she's going to embrace it, and she's going to love it. And there's
two ways you can
she's
take that.
Tried to put a positive spin, like, this is what I have, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's two ways you could look at that. You could look at it as Chris Rock has to know that she has it, which, why would he make the joke? But you can also look at it, which I think is the point you're trying to make, of she claims she's going to try to embrace it and love herself, and maybe Chris Rock looked at it as like, we can make light of this.
Correct.
So
like,
yeah,
it's not. It'd be like me making a joke about Lyme's disease because you have Lyme's, because we've talked about it and you are like upfront about it. You talk about when it's good and when it's bad.
Sure.
And in my world, talking about it with you, it's just like part of who you are. Like, I'm allergic to grass, you have Lyme's disease, and it's okay.
Don't talk about my Lyme's disease.
Well, right. If I made a joke of it, like, Jeff has Lyme's,
right,
and then you got all sensitive one time, it would throw me.
Right.
Because we've just talked about what you deal with, what you don't deal with, when it's good, when it's bad, and it's just a part of you. Like, people,
I've gone back and forth this morning because I think there's a part of me, I brought up the have your cake and eat it too. And there's a part of me of, when they do this Facebook show and they talk about all these personal things, they are getting paid to do it. And when she posts something on social media, she is getting paid from it. But then there's this idea of somebody, like, now that maybe it's not lucrative, now it's not as okay. Like, I'm not willing to talk about it, or I'm not willing to have it be talked about. So that's like one side of the fence. The other side of the fence is, it is a personal thing. So when I decide to talk about it, it is okay. It's my personal life. It's the thing that I'm going through. So Chris Rock, don't talk about it like that. And I can't decide which side of that fence I sit on.
I get it.
I'm trying to decide. Every time I start to lean one way, I end up going back the other way.
And the Smiths are obviously an incredibly unique couple.
Yes.
As we mentioned before, I can't think of any couple that is so famous, that is so clearly in an open relationship that they talk about.
Right.
One of the things, as you read through this, as I was reading through, a couple years ago, Will Smith was married before. Mm-hmm. He has a child, Trey, to his first wife, who I think was the little kid in Pursuit of Happiness. Mm-hmm. I think that was his son, Trey. And a couple years ago, he posted on her birthday, the first wife's birthday, happy birthday, blah, 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 to something along the lines of the greatest baby mama ever.
Okay.
Now, he's married to another woman and he has 2 kids with this woman, sure, but he's calling the first one the greatest baby mom. Now, maybe falls into a category that because they're not married anymore, like, this is his wife and this is the baby. Maybe that's how it works. Sure. But he posts this and Chris Rock made a comment under it. You must have a very understanding wife. And so, again, I can see where Chris is making a joke about it. But again, if you put that stuff out on Twitter, people are going to make comments about it because that's what social media is all about.
Sure.
So it's just another example of, they put it out there. And yes, when you put out that my first wife is the greatest baby mama ever, when I have a new wife now with 2 kids to her,
right,
that's going to get a reaction.
it's such a unique relationship, and it only made the relationship more unique.
Yes.
Because I still don't know exactly what the turning point was for Will Smith, but there was in that 5 seconds there was very clearly a turning point.
Well,
very, very clearly.
Yes, and hold on. There we go. Hold on. And this is the thing: to do what they do, and to be as public as they are about the uniqueness that they have, and in a way that society frowns upon. At least Western society.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern society, there are other societies that are very more open about sexual monogamy. But it obviously takes a great amount of courage to put yourself out there for the criticism that you know is bound to come.
Sure.
So I respect that. Either they just are so starved for attention that they need the attention regardless of whether it's good or bad. But I don't get that.
I don't think that's what
I don't get that either. I think they're being genuine. They're being like, there are different ways, and ours is different. And one of I don't know how long they've been married. They've been married a long time. Mm-hmm. They've for a Hollywood couple, they have survived it. Sure. They've survived it for any couple. So I respect the aspect of their courage to not only be different, to publicly be different, and to put themselves out there and to say we are different, knowing the backlash that's going to come with it. Mm. And I just don't know how much, because it's them and because this was them, the two will obviously be interwoven. I'm not sure how much last night's events should be.
No, very valid points. I have down just some last things. I don't think Chris Rock could press charges.
Why?
Not legally, just from a socially
from a PR. I agree.
I don't think it was really a choice for him. I think to press charges would have looked
crybaby-ish.
It would have looked crybaby-ish. It would have looked almost like I'm allowed to say all these things, but you like.
No, I agree.
And I'm not excusing what Will Smith did, but I don't. People are like, oh, he could, and I'm like, but he can't. Like,
no, I agree.
I know legally he could, but like, he really can't do it. Does that make sense?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
There's no, and I'll bet he never even considered it.
I don't think he did either. I said the people that should be the most upset right now are comedians.
Well, I think
because there's an unwritten, I don't want to call it a rule. There's an unwritten barrier, and it's this like even hecklers. Like, even if you're a heckler, you can verbally yell back at me, but physically you do not come up on this stage.
I think it was Kathy Griff. I read a comedian that pointed at. Now I'm writing notes so I don't forget what I was going to say. But I think she said that like, does this now put comedians in physical danger? Do people believe that if I make fun of, because if you go to a comedy show, they're making fun of people in the audience
all the time, and
now you get to come up and punch me if you don't like the joke.
I personally have never seen that invisible barrier broken. What's that?
Kanye.
But that wasn't for a comedian.
No, but it was someone rushing the stage at a time that he wasn't supposed to rush the stage.
Totally different. Because what I'm talking about is like that invisible barrier between a comedian and the audience. And you can verbally break that barrier. You can break that barrier with a middle finger. You can do a lot of things across that invisible barrier. But one of them is you physically cannot cross this barrier. And in dude, I'm like, you know me, I'm a stand-up junkie. I'm watching all of it. YouTube clips, dive bars, like all these different things. In a video, I have never seen somebody actually cross that barrier.
I agree.
And Will Smith did last night.
I agree. So let me ask you this. Let's have a little, let's take this to the next realm and have some fun with it.
Okay.
For the people who say it's okay.
Okay.
And I know there's obviously an understanding that, like, either violence is okay or violence is not okay.
Okay.
And I think, everyone that when it's in self-defense, it's okay. But I'm pissed at you, so I get to hit you.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of adult intelligent society that says there's better ways to handle it.
Okay.
So is it because it was a guy? Is it except if Amy Schumer tells this joke, Will Smith can't hit her?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Then why is it okay? But it's okay for him to hit a guy.
Well, I think do you want me to play devil's advocate? Like,
Sure.
I'll pretend to be the other side?
Sure.
Because I don't think Will Smith should have hit Chris Rock last night. I just want to disclaimer. He should not have hit Chris Rock last night. I understand the point that you are making. I guess it just comes down to these unwritten barriers that we have in society, right? Like these unwritten rules. So let's put it this way. If Amy Schumer would have made a joke about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett walked up onto the stage, would you have had an issue with Jada Pinkett doing it?
Huh.
Not to 180 you there, but do you understand?
I'm trying to picture it. That would have been more like a movie scene. But yes. Okay. So anyway, the next point. Okay. What if Dwayne Johnson makes this joke? Does Will Smith go up and smack him?
So there was someone saying, do you know how tall Will Smith is? Because I'm going to answer your question.
He's tall.
He's 6'3", and he's like a sturdy 6'3",
right.
too.
He played Muhammad Ali.
Chris Rock, without looking, I bet is 5'10", maybe
170 pounds. Yeah.
So there is. I do want to look.
So what if it's Jason Momoa? What if it's somebody that Will Smith knew could kick his ass and would kick his ass? Now, like if you have to do this to defend your wife's honor, does it matter that it's a little scrawny guy who I'm bigger than, or are you doing it to everyone? Because if he's doing it on principle, then he should have gone up and smacked Jason Momoa too, and I'll bet you wouldn't have.
It's a very fair and valid point that I had not thought about before. My guess is he would not have done it.
I agree.
So here, this is.
So then what does that say about Will Smith and his I'm defending my woman's honor?
I totally agree. There's also a side to this too where I said to several people who said it was okay for Will Smith to smack him, would they have been upset then if Chris Rock would have tried to take his legs out and pin him to the floor? Because I would argue him defending himself would have been almost as important as Will Smith defending. So there's a lot of, you bring up some really valid points. I had not thought about it. I had thought about Chris Rock retaliating. I hadn't thought about it not being Chris Rock. It's a very, very good point.
This is the other thing that I read, and this is fascinating to me too. The fact that it was black guy slapping black guy has made it a non-issue. If the presenter was white, what are we talking about today? Or if Chris Rock was telling the joke and the slapper was white, what are we talking about today? And those would be worked into it.
Sure.
The fact that this was black on black has made it a non-racial issue. If this was white on black, either side, we would be talking about that today.
I think in our world, it has made it a non-issue. I think when I wake up and when you wake up and we check our feeds or we talk to our friends or family, that it has taken the racial side of it out of it. I would imagine that in other cultural circles, it has actually made it a talking point. I bet you it actually is a talking point in other circles. The fact that it was a black man slapping another black man.
Well, yes. What I'm saying is
locker rooms. There are going to be locker rooms in America today that are going to talk about the fact that a black guy slapped another black guy.
What if a white guy had gone up and slapped Chris Rock?
Well, no, then for you and I, it's much more of a talking point. And so the point that I'm making is for you and I, we woke up this morning and it was less, it just wasn't as much. It took 54 minutes for us to bring up the fact. All I'm saying is in other places that are going to discuss this, whether it's two different talk show hosts or a locker room or an office or wherever it may be, there are places where it actually, I would argue, makes it more of a talking point. We just happen to be in a world where that's not the case.
And I agree. I think part of the point that I'm making is this was a joke that was either good or bad. However, it wasn't. I don't think it was good, but you know what I'm saying. And a husband who was worked up and anxious and pissed off and all these things, and there was obviously no racial issue in it at all because they're of the same race. But if this would have happened with one white guy and one black guy, there would automatically be people who said there's a racial component to this. And why? And there isn't necessarily a racial component. It could be just a bad joke, a pissed off husband, and whatever.
Well, I think
and
it's
every time we have white black, we make it racial when it doesn't always.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree with your point.
So there we go.
That was it. That was good.
That was kind of the end of.
Those were some good hypotheticals that I had not taken into account yet.
And that's what. And I think too. Like, is there any? Well, there's obviously some negative for Chris Rock. I mean, Chris Rock's. I would assume Chris Rock is on one of these shows very soon, because it's a ratings bonanza for him. He's got a content like this just boosted his sales.
Okay,
and he could just come on and say, "Listen, I feel terrible that it happened. I didn't." Whether he's allowed to talk about who wrote the joke or rehearsal, I don't know. Okay. But he's going to fall on his sword and say, "I didn't realize it was such a touchy topic. I thought G.I. Jane is not an insult in any way. Demi Moore was not ugly in any way."
I think the person, I know Will Smith declined to go on Kimmel, right? And I'm sure they're meeting with their teams. They're trying everything else. If I were Chris Rock or Will Smith, I want to be first. Like, I want to be and whether it's Will Smith to apologize or explain himself, or whether it's Chris Rock to try to make light of it and make it seem like, it's okay. The first is going to be seen as not the winner, but they're going to have a chance to essentially be seen as like the peacemaker than the second person.
Well, I don't think.
So I would be saying to my PR team, like, I don't care what we have to do to get the right message across, but I need to be first. I need to be on Kimmel before the other one. I don't think Chris Rock. I mean, the story is Will Smith, and whether he goes first, let's put it this way. I agree with you a little bit that Chris Rock's window of opportunity is now. Chris Rock needs to be first. When Will Smith goes on, the world is going to watch. If Will Smith goes first, then people don't really care what Chris Rock says. Oh, I very much disagree. Oh, I don't think. Really? I think the whole story is, and I think Chris Rock's is easy. I think he says, I didn't realize it was going to be that. I mean, obviously we make jokes about these people all the time. I think Chris Rock has the better story. Like, if I imagine Rock on Kimmel or Will Smith on Kimmel, like today, Rock telling the story, like what went through your mind when you saw Will Smith? Yes. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I think people care what Rock has to say, and if he's first, not only does his story have a catchy whatever, but he also gets to be the one to kind of like, hey, it's things are rough. I get it. It's like he has a chance to really come out kind of golden if he's first. Absolutely. I agree 100%. But I think the same weight is true for Smith. I just think first is going to be, again, not the winner, but I think whoever is first has a clear advantage from the PR standpoint of things. Well, I would be telling my team, whatever he is doing, I'll do them all tonight. Yeah, like if he's doing blank at 11, I will be there at 10:30. Exactly. I'm with you. That's me. I think the other aspect, the advantage that Chris Rock has is there's so much high ground for him to take here, for him to say, listen, as a black man in this industry, it was the 5th time in the history that a black man has won, and this has been a shadow that's come over the nut, and I'm so sorry that this happened. Sure. And I love Will Smith and I love his work. And I hope this doesn't detriment his career, because he's great for who we are and what we do. Well, can we talk about that real quick? Because, I love Will Smith. I don't think anyone didn't like Will Smith until last night. That is I know we just talked about this for almost an hour, but that is maybe the part of this that we kind of skipped over is I don't know if there was anybody who hated Will Smith. These are two of the most lovable Hollywood characters. This is professional wrestling where you have two fan favorites wrestling going against. That's why you need a heel in every match. Okay. You need a villain. Every story needs a villain. In this story, everyone's so likable. It just makes me wonder. I don't want to sit here and say it makes me wonder if Will Smith's okay. I'm sure he's fine. But it does make you wonder about the weight of what some people feel versus others. And maybe the weight of winning, the weight of being up there and maybe like this could be my last chance to be seen as
Oh
like a
my
serious
gosh.
actor, and your peers around you. And it was just so out of character, I guess. Like, I'm talking as if I know Will Smith and we're like best friends, which I clearly don't. It just seems so different because, like you said, he went up there right after and he's talking about being like this whatever for peace and all these things. But see, like, to me, that's way more Will Smith than what happened 10 minutes before. And so was it just this like outer body moment of just I don't know. I'm curious to see as time moves forward how this is viewed, because this is like a blimp on Will Smith's career and lifestyle and his character and how he's viewed. But it was such a blimp. Like, it was just, it was I mean, everyone has their moment or their 15 minutes of negativity or just whatever. But this was like, it was so out of character.
No, I'm with it. This is something we shouldn't go to, but we will. So you watched his acceptance speech, obviously.
Yeah.
Am I the only one when people are taught, and I understand religion is very personal and it's unique to people, and I understand they're in Scientology, and that's
sure.
But when someone, how do I say this correctly without, because lots of people are going to disagree with this depending on your religious bent. For someone who is as successful as Will Smith has been, that it is hard for anyone out there saying the guy has been unbelievably blessed. So he goes up in front of all these billions of people holding an Academy Award and his bajillion dollars that he's already made, and he's talking about, I feel like I'm being called to be this, I keep saying, this vessel of peace. I don't know what word he used. Is there any element that you think in this moment when he's saying that, isn't he in a roundabout way saying I'm better than everyone else because I am being called, and all you billions of people out there who don't feel like they're being called to anything, right? Do you feel like you're being called to anything right now? You're not overly religious. I don't feel like I'm being called to anything right now. So I'm sitting here saying, if I'm a really religious person, and I am religious but not really religious, but if I'm sitting here saying, I don't feel like I'm being called to anything, and God, you've already given Will Smith everything in the world that he has, and now you're calling him to do more, like, what am I doing? And it just comes across to me like I am so special. I'm being called personally. He's calling me to be this vessel of peace. And it just seems to be like, dude,
no,
am I in left field with this?
I don't think you're in left field. I think it's a fair point. I've had a lot of conversations with people about, like, I've told you before, I'm agnostic. But I find religious conversation fascinating. I love to talk about it. I love to hear other people's perspectives and what they think and what they feel and what they believe. I think it's kind of what makes us all unique in a different way. Because even though you might share the same religion, everybody kind of has their own viewpoint.
It's different.
Yes. I think there's this idea, like you kind of hit on this with Will Smith, or anybody who feels as if they've accomplished or climbed the mountain. I do wonder how people view the perspective of, once you have accomplished it or once you've done it, there must be something bigger. There must be something greater. Because now, what do you do if there isn't? And so the point that you just made about Will Smith is you've made these incredible, and by the way, if you go through his archive of movies, he's
done all right.
Well, no, but even deeper than that, he's searching for something. Like, don't get me wrong, like, he'll do the superhero movie and he's done the Men in Blacks and all these different things. But like Pursuit of Happiness, and then you go into like 7 Pounds, and you go into like some of these, like, he clearly is looking for what is the thing. And if you watch
there is a depth to him.
If you watch his social media accounts and his motivational videos and seeking videos. And so the point I'm making is, you have money, you have fame, you've done these movies, and now you're about to win the award that in your career sanctified. Like it is
Right.
it's the thing.
It is the creme de la creme.
And so if you are him and you're getting up to that age, there has to be something more. There has to be something bigger. Did I love the way he expressed that? Probably not. Did it come off as kind of like patron saint, look, yeah, sure. But I don't know if that necessarily is what he was going for. I think for him, it's like, what is the big thing bigger? What is the next? And like, I feel like I need to find it, or I need to show it to you, because like, what else could I possibly have left to do?
I know, but when you get the sentiment of I'm being called,
sure,
is like this deity who is greater than all of us is calling me. He ain't calling you. Now, and I get that Will Smith's not saying like God doesn't call anyone else.
Sure.
But to all the people out there who, again, don't feel like they're being called, I get it. I think this is because I thought about this while I was driving this morning. Don't
give it too much, because I have a point.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say in a past tense version, I think it's okay for people to look at someone and say, I just felt called to do that. Like, this is why I did this, or this is why I moved.
Sure.
But in the present, I just get this moment that, if he's not, hey, he's calling me, he ain't calling you.
I get it. It reminded me of the Michael Jordan Hall of Fame speech. And here's why. Because two very different speeches, but I think you'll get my point. Michael Jordan did the log on the fire speech. Do you remember this at all?
I do not.
Hall of Fame?
No, I do
so
not.
He said, he basically thanked everyone that came through because they were a log on the, so anybody who had beat him before was a log on the fire, right?
Okay.
And so now I'm looking way too much into this. However, imagine being like Karl Malone or Charles Barkley or whoever else, and like, in Michael Jordan's eyes, you're just a piece of this great fire that is Michael Jordan. Like, the point of your existence was to just make sure that Michael Jordan could overcome and become the greatest champion in all of basketball.
Well, the point of your existence to Michael Jordan.
That's the point, right? And so that's what I'm saying to you is, to Will Smith, like, there is a point of existence here with Will Smith that is a little Michael Jordan-esque, where what he is saying isn't aligning with probably what he actually feels. Because what Michael Jordan was saying was like, Charles Barkley was important because he helped Michael Jordan grow into becoming the greatest player. Because from Michael Jordan's perspective, that makes perfect sense.
I had to be, right.
Yes. But if you're Charles Barkley, I had my own whole career, my own whole life, and my own ambitions and goals and dreams and things I want, right? And like things that I wanted to accomplish. I think it's very similar to Will Smith's speech of, I want to help you so much and I want to be this vessel for peace and all these things. But as he's saying it, it can very easily be
But I just slapped the guy 20 minutes ago.
Correct. It can very easily be construed of, you need to receive it from me because I'm here on this mountaintop and I'm going to be able to. So to me, the two were very comparable from that standpoint of, I don't think they meant it to come off the way it did, but to your point, it seemed kind of holier than thou.
And I agree with that. I don't think he meant any ill will towards it, but there's a level, it's like rich people complaining about how many taxes they pay.
Sure.
Like, you know why you pay a lot of taxes? Because you're rich. And at the end of the tax process, you have way more money than we do anyway. So cry me a river. And so there is that, and that's, I don't know. I get the holier than thou, and I'm sure he never thought of it that way. And I'm sure there are religious people that will tell you that everyone is being called all the time.
Sure.
If you don't hear it, then you're just not listening.
Sure. And
I get that aspect too. But that there are millions and millions and millions and millions of people out there watching that are thinking, I don't feel called in.
Well, imagine, I mean, this is the other thing. Like we had talked about the 5 seconds between laughing and going up. I mean, imagine what must have been going through his head from the moment he sat down after hitting Chris Rock until walking up on stage to get the award. I mean, how many times do you think he thought about switching his speech? How many times do you think he thought about saying something like, can I say this now after I just, I mean,
Right.
what must have been firing through the synapses in his brain, I can't even begin to function. I mean,
Right.
it's amazing the guy didn't just fall over from
Right.
trying to figure out what, the whole thing is just bad. We could have talked about this for 3 hours.
Well, and I think, well, we're not done yet. I think at the end of it, I think Chris Rock deserves incredible props for handling it the way he did, for continuing on and getting through the.
So this is, can I say this?
And the other irony about it, when we talk about from a black society, that this is a historical moment because it's the 5th time ever. Isn't it the first black man that's won in 16 years?
Numbers.
It was like, did Sidney Poitier win it way back when? And then Denzel and oh my gosh, the guy who played Rucker in the movie that you haven't watched yet, and the guy who played The Last King of Scotland. Oh my God.
Anyway,
I think there were 5. I think this is number 5.
okay.
So this is a huge night for black people in cinema. And the award, he was introducing documentary, and the documentary that won was Summer of Soul, which is about,
fantastic, by the way, if you haven't
I haven't seen it
really
yet.
liked it.
With Questlove.
Yep.
So it was like, it was another moment.
Well, someone said the person they feel the worst for is Questlove.
Yes.
I remember
He was put in a tough spot, and I thought he handled it as well as possible.
Yeah.
You know who also helped was P. Diddy.
Yes.
Or what's his name now?
Diddy?
Yeah, Sean Combs.
Yeah.
He made a little joke about it.
Forrest Whitaker was the last.
Forrest Whitaker, that's it.
Vicky Keel helped us.
Last King of Scotland.
I want to go back to Chris Rock really quick, and I'm going to try to remember exactly what it was. There was a moment where you said Chris Rock handled it so well.
So at least we know one person is still listening.
Oh,
Vicky
yeah, there's
Keel
lots of people still listening. Chris Rock, you said like you praised him for how well he handled it. So because he's a comedian and he's been an actor and he gets hit. He's still kind of smiling. Like, there's still kind of like a grin to him, like after he gets hit, right? And then he comes back. Will Smith yells at him from the crowd. And you could see afterwards, the grin just kind of slowly went away. So the point that I'm going to make to you is, I think he reacted the way he reacted because he was still kind of in like comedian skit mode. I don't think how real it all was until after the smile kind of drained from him, and then it was trying to get back to the award. So I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit. He certainly does. But I do think a part of his reaction was like, I think that comedian actor skit mode really didn't end until after Will Smith yelled at him.
I agree. And because he didn't know what was going on. Because if Will Smith would have gone back down and sat down and looked at him and said, she told me to do it. It would have been, and he would have laughed, and then it would have been, because he didn't know if Will was serious or not.
Yes.
Until he started yelling. I don't think society knew until he started yelling.
But that is, I mean, you want to see like somebody, you could literally see like the definition of realization on Chris Rock's face.
I agree with that.
Like I've never seen a better interpretation of somebody literally coming to grips with the fact of what had just happened.
And yes, and just think about like he's embarrassed. He feels bad. He's embarrassed. He's live. He's got to go.
I mean, he even shakes his brain twice because you can see he's kind of like, he didn't shake his head after he got slapped. Like most of the time you get slapped and it's kind of like, you're like coming to.
How often do you get slapped?
I don't. But you get my point. in the movies, you get slapped and you kind of rub your face and you shake your head and you're trying to like come to, as they would say.
Right.
He doesn't do that until after he gets yelled at. And then he kind of has a moment. He kind of looks over and he's like, and that should have happened after the slap. But again, I think like when you're a comedian, you're a performer. And when you're on stage, you are in performance mode. And so I think the first 10 seconds after it happened, it was still all performance.
He thought it was still part of the performance.
And then you can literally see him leave performance mode and just come to grips with it. And it is, I mean, watching it is, it's not, I don't want to use the word sad, but I felt in that moment. I was like, oh, this is a guy who's realizing that this is forever.
Yes, and he's got to get through it.
Yes.
He can't just like. What would have happened if he would have just turned and walked off?
I don't know. I'm sure they have a protocol. I'm sure somebody would have stepped out and announced the award or something. Like they have
if
to have
someone gets physically attacked and they leave the stage, like you're the all.
I could be wrong. There has to be somebody always standing by the curtain to walk out to the microphone. Wouldn't you assume that?
I guess
you don't think so.
I mean, when you think of the co-hosts, I just don't think they have a it's not like hockey where they have somebody ready to hop over the boards and start skating.
Ringer isn't the word, but you don't think they have like a hot hand? Like you don't think they just have somebody that is like right there ready at any point that like if someone has a heart attack and someone has that like they are ready to come out and grab the mic. You don't think that?
No, I think they grab the closest person around.
Then I'm way off on how award shows work.
I think backstage is a mess because I think they're changing all the time.
I agree with that.
Now, maybe at the point where whoever was doing whatever, like I bet Amy Schumer really was changing out of her Spider-Woman costume, but maybe Wanda Sykes is just standing there because she has nothing else to do until her next segment.
I can't believe they don't just have like a hot mic guy.
But why would they ever? Because it's never happened.
I know, but that's the point, isn't it? Like the whole point of being in charge of this stuff is to just be ready for when things that aren't supposed to happen. I can't think of a simpler, more prepared thing than just having somebody for 3 hours stand by the curtain. And their only job is that if something happens and someone has to walk off or whatever, is to come out to the mic. That's their only job.
Just in case he gets slapped, you're in.
Slapped, falls over, heart attack. Like who knows?
You can see some guy in the crew like ripping off his headset and unplugging himself and running out and grabbing the mic.
You don't think anybody in charge of an award show, when like a 75 or 80-year-old man or woman walks out to the mic, they've never gone, what happens if they have to go to the bathroom?
That's why they don't go by themselves.
What happens if they...
That's why they're not. That's why Liza Minnelli had Gaga.
Okay. All right.
By the way, was that touching or what? Did you stay up for the end of that?
I did.
Gaga, I love Gaga.
Yeah.
Does anyone not love her too?
I can't think of anybody.
I mean, when she was young, and she is, talk about, I don't mean to go tangent here.
Sure.
She's admitted she was like a burlesque show stripper, whatever, on her way up.
Okay.
She's admitted that she has struggles with depression.
Sure.
She took the heat for wearing the meat dress.
Mm-hmm.
But she's done shows with Tony Bennett.
The Bennett stuff is fantastic. Have you seen the 60-minute or whatever?
She was there with Liza Minnelli, and you could hear because Liza was. I didn't realize Liza was like. First of all, I didn't even realize she was alive.
Okay.
And I think the reason they did it, and this could be because Liza Minnelli's Judy Garland's daughter.
Okay.
And Judy Garland was the most famous of A Star Is Born. Until Gaga did The Star Is Born. So there's that connection. Maybe I'm reaching with that.
Sure.
But because I have seen the Judy Garland version of A Star Is Born. And but like you could tell that Liza was struggling and Gaga, you could hear in the hot mic say, I've got you.
Sure. And
it was So that was a very touching, humanistic ending to a show that had its issues.
No, sure, absolutely. Any opinion on the slap heard around the world last night?
No.
Do you want to? Jared? Do you want to go slap Jeff in just kind of recreate the scene?
Watch it drain the color drain from his skin. As a minute. Anything else that you can think about the show? Coda 1, which I have not seen. Coda. That was one of the movies I had said I'd not seen.
I've not seen Coda.
Okay.
For people that don't, and I assume. I explained this to my mom during it. It stands for Children of Deaf Adults.
Okay.
Is the acronym, whatever it's called, like
Yes.
MASH
Mhm.
is Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, whatever. Is that an acronym?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what it stands for. I still haven't seen King Richard, and I'm dying to.
Now you're gonna run home and watch it.
No, I'm gonna wait in line because I'm gonna get it at Redbox, and at Redbox it won't be there because now everyone's gonna watch it. Or now, okay, there's the next question. Are people not watching it now?
Ooh, I'm sure there will be a faction of people that think they're getting their point across by not watching it. Those people would be wrong. I'm sure they feel that way. But that's not going to be the way to get their point.
We should do a show on that one day. How many people do something thinking they're getting their point across, but they're wrong? It's not working. What do you? So here's the next one.
Like me refusing to recycle plastic bottles. Like I'm not really getting my point across.
You're making the world worse. But
No worse
damage,
than the thousands of corporations that
the
don't
damage.
do
Well,
anything.
yeah, whatever. You can only control you, Jeff. It'll be interesting. The next interesting aspect is what. Okay, they'll never say it publicly. Privately, off the record, what do you think the Williams family thinks today?
Oh, that's a good question. They, I mean, this the interesting part is because of who they grew up with and their dad. And if you watch the movie, I'm not saying the Williams sisters' dad would have done what Will Smith did last night, right? Like I'm not implying that at all. But there is an aspect here of Will Smith was very much more in character last night than he was for his own personal self, if that made sense.
Okay.
That seemed more like one of his movie characters, maybe even a little King Richard-ish, more so than Will Smith.
Because well, first of all, I would be willing to bet that Venus and Serena knew Will Smith before this. After doing the show or the movie, yes. I'm sure they love Will Smith and they have a great relationship, or they did, and yeah. But it's still, I could imagine.
Well, in the movie,
I can imagine they're disappointed.
I'm not giving anything away from the movie because King Richard was like, he defended his daughter. Number one priority was his daughters. There was no doubt about it. And he was not afraid to stand up for them. He was not afraid to speak up for them. He was willing to put himself out on a limb to make sure that his daughters got what they needed. There are a lot of aspects about last night that Will Smith getting into character for King Richard, you could very easily, someone could write a paper about how Will Smith's characterization of King Richard very much played out last night. It's not out of the realm of, you know how like there's people who just get so into character and then they can't get out of it, whether it's drug abuse or whether it's acting a certain way or whatever it is. I'm not implying that Richard Williams would have walked up on that stage and slapped Chris Rock, but I am implying that those characteristics were much more the character Will Smith played than what Will Smith has demonstrated over the last 20, 30 years.
Okay, now I'm sure no one's listening now.
Lots of people are listening.
So here's my last question.
Okay.
Maybe not my last question, my next question. Any chance not today, not tomorrow, but is there any chance that like a week from Friday, these two are on Jimmy Kimmel together?
When you say these two, you mean the Williams sisters?
No, Rock and Will Smith.
Oh, I would doubt it. You were going through and you were reading to me some of the past jokes that Chris Rock has done about Jada Pinkett and Will Smith.
Oh, that was my point.
And I had never heard of some of these. So this goes deeper than last night, and because of that, I doubt it.
Okay. But so here's the other aspect. And this is the other thing that I've always told my friends. Because this goes way back. Remember when I had 2 points and I forgot one?
Sure.
You're just making that up.
No,
like an hour ago. And you were talking about people sitting in the front row thinking you're going to get splashed.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a belief, or not even a belief, an understanding and a truth that unless you're trying to be hurtful and unless you're being mean-spirited, you only make fun of people that you like.
Okay.
So there's a...
Oh, that's a good point.
There's a sense of when you're Chris Rock and you're joking about Jada and Will, I'm only joking about you because I like you. I'm not taking shots at people I don't like who can't take the joke. There's plenty of people in the room who can take the joke and people I do like. So that's probably another aspect that threw him off because I can't believe that. And again, when you go back through the joke that he made about what's his name and Penelope Cruz, who's the guy married to Penelope Cruz, and they're both up. And he said he can't win because if he wins and his wife loses, like basically he can't go home and be happy.
Sure.
So he said, what's his name is rooting for Will Smith.
Right.
And he even mentioned Will Smith. He didn't say he's rooting for someone else. He wants Will Smith to win. And kind of people knew Will Smith. They thought Will Smith was going to win going in anyway. But so I don't think that these two, I don't think Chris Rock didn't like Will Smith going into last night. And I don't know. I think if Will Smith's people called Chris Rock and said, we're sorry, we think it'll be good for us. We think it'll be good for, You know,
I don't see it.
you don't think?
I don't see it. I'm not saying that there won't be a phone call made or whatever. Like, I get all of that, but them actually showing up and sitting on a couch together, I just don't see it. I think it goes deeper in that because you said there's years past he's made jokes before. I can't buy into that.
Okay, so then here's my next question. As I'm not going to say last anymore because I keep coming up with good questions. Question number 1. How soon until one of these people is on Kimmel or Fallon or?
Well, I would do it right away. I think they're going to lay low.
You think
right
it's
now.
this week?
No, I think they're both going to lay low. I really do.
You think it's I mean, it has to be within the first 2 weeks, don't you think?
But why though? Like, what is the advantage of them going on anything right now?
I think Chris Rock can come out smelling like a rose.
I think so too, but I also think for him, like, he just doesn't need it. Like, it's not something he needs to be. There's also there's some Chris Rock stuff. Like, Chris Rock, I think it's either ADHD or ADD. I forget what it is, but like some of the stuff that happened with him last night, I do wonder how that will play into like his persona. And listen, it's kind of like a basketball player. It's like a quarterback who just can't shake off the fluke. Like a quarterback who throws a big interception, they just are never the same again. Like, I wonder if you're Chris Rock, like, are you ever really the same again on stage?
Oh, I think it gives him. I think it gives him all kinds of material.
Oh no, but that's not. But that's not. We're not talking about material.
You mean is he jumpy that every joke he's afraid he's going to get hit?
We're talking about just persona and confidence, and because again, that invisible barrier for a comedian is that the whole concept of me standing up there is this is my persona, and I'm putting it on to you. And it works because, yeah, like you might heckle me or whatever, but like you can't touch this.
Well,
you can't
touch a little. There you go, a little MC Hammer. I like it.
You and I'm really big on people. There's this assumption, and you and I talked a lot about this past sports season, and some people will get that reference and some won't. But we talked a lot about there are people who just assume that when people come back after something, they're going to be the same person, and that's just not how people work. And so I think there's a false belief right now that Chris Rock is Chris Rock and just that, and he'll just go up on stage again and and all I'm saying is like, I'm not just assuming that. Like this was a thing.
This would be my take on it. To be a successful stand-up comedian, as successful as he has been, it has not always been a smooth road. And he has always been able to figure it out. And this is
different.
It is different, but I think it's like when my brother got hit in the head with a line drive.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was a while, like every pitch he recoiled.
Yep.
And then he changed his follow through a little bit so he could see better. Mm-hmm. And he didn't think he was in as dangerous of a position.
The point you're making is it took reps.
Yes, but it got to the point where he was like, I either need to get over it or I can't do this anymore.
Sure.
And I think Chris Rock, as talented and as successful and as driven, and you can't get to where he's been without being driven, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. I can't believe he's like,
totally,
this is going to stop.
But it's going to take reps. And your question to me was, how soon do you think he'll be on like a Kimmel or on or whatever? And what I'm saying to you is like, I think it might be a while. Like I think it'll be quick. You don't think so?
I think it's quick. I think he is so.
I would if I were him. I'd want to be first if I were him.
And I think he comes up smelling really well because he can just say, "It was a joke. I didn't know. I'm sorry."
Totally.
And I'm just not going to make the assumption. Will the best.
I'm just not going to make the assumption that things are very normal for him right now. I'm not doing that.
Oh,
I'm not going to make that right. And so what that means, I don't know. So like. I don't think he'll be on anything within a week.
We know the other aspect.
I would argue even longer.
And again, we don't. And you have to go here because you have a meeting.
I do.
My last point, and then I will shut up because I know you have to go. What's I think the most interesting thing right now in Chris Rock's world, of course, because I can relate to this. These two being uber famous, successful Hollywood black man, uber famous, successful Hollywood black man. Both roughly the same age. They have to have all the same friends. Or at least like Denzel knows them both. Tyler Perry knows them both. So who is Chris Rock hearing from today? And who is he not hearing from today?
I'll tell you who he is. He's hearing from comedians today.
Absolutely.
Comedians have his back.
Absolutely.
There's not one comedian in the world right now who is not defending Chris Rock.
I agree with that. And did Denzel reach out to Chris Rock today or last night in the after party? Or did Tyler, did all the people, is there anyone who has gone Team Will and left Chris out there hanging? That is the interesting aspect, because I think Chris Rock will be empowered by who he hears from today. And it's in the court of public opinion, it is a very dangerous side, I think, to go Team Will and leave Chris Rock and be like, no, I'm cutting Chris Rock loose. Because I think most of society thinks, even though the joke can be seen that it was in bad taste and it wasn't funny, it didn't deserve a physical assault.
Sure.
So anyway, all right, you got to go.
Thank you guys.
And no
for
one's
watching
listening
the
anymore
Midday
anyway.
Show. No, that was good. We got lots of people.
Did we?
Yeah. Thanks for watching the Midday Show. Go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
You know what's going to get more?
What?
The truck crash.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, go to NorthcentralPa.com.
You can see that too.
The Route 81 pilot.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We will be back tomorrow.
Yes, we will.